We're back. Second half. Highlights on the way.
We're shutting off his mic, actually.
Good morning.
Hey, welcome back. Have we already started? Was that are we started?
Yeah, I guess. We can use it as
Well, I'm going to
bumpers.
edit that part out.
Yeah, we can use them as
Okay,
bumpers.
shall we?
Sure.
Hey guys, welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed episode 1. We're arguing here over whether this is episode 1 or 2 at this point. So I'm going to make an executive decision and say the last one was the meet and greet, and this is episode 1. And now they can't argue with me because we're already live and I already decided.
Great.
So we are talking about sleep today. So first and foremost, in the office, this comes up a ton, but you two share a little bit. I mean, what are the common questions we get? What are the frustrations that parents are feeling around the topic of sleep?
Go ahead. Take it away.
I feel like parents struggle a lot with putting their kids to sleep or their kids staying asleep or just tossing and turning, sometimes like nightmares or night terrors or sleepwalking and things like that. And it all boils down back to how their nervous system is.
We sometimes have to talk to them like babies. The nervous system is really part of the deal.
Nervous system.
I think what Dr. Ann is trying to say is we see a lot of restless sleep.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big category for me personally. When I'm talking to those parents, that's the one I probably hear the most, is that it's not that their kid won't go to sleep. It's not that they can't stay asleep, but they seem to wake up tired and then they're starting the next day from behind. And I have 4 kids. If there's one thing I know personally is a big problem for a parent, is when you have a full day of things to do and your child didn't get good sleep and you know it by 9 a.m. that this is going to be a really, really long day. So Dr. Jamie, anything else to add around?
I think the biggest thing
comments?
is parents will bring it up in conversation to us, but it's never with the assumption that we can help with it. I think it's almost like, the kids didn't sleep last night. It was a really rough night. So he's having a bad day or she's having a bad day, or they didn't get a nap. So they're pretty restless. And so I think that just in conversation with them, those challenges get brought up, but it's never actually them asking us for help until we share with them. We can certainly help with that. Let's address the nervous system. Let's try to heal the nervous system so that the body can recover and rest and heal the way it's intended to. And so I think that's probably the coolest part about talking about those neurosoft signs, which I'm sure we'll get into the rest of them in future visits, or I keep saying visits,
That's all right.
future episodes. But that eating, sleeping, and pooping needs to be on target. And so we're starting with that first one with sleeping. And I'm just excited to share with parents so that they know in the future, like, hey, this is something I should talk to my chiropractor about.
Absolutely. Yeah. So let's go. Let's take parents or whoever's listening into like our thought process. Let's talk about the neurology. Why does it matter? Why do we see sleep challenges in kids? And from our perspective, what do we do to analyze that? How do we assess it? How do we tell them that we can help those kids?
I think the biggest thing is we assess every person in our practice with neurological exams. So it's going to be the insight scans. It gives us 3 parts to seeing a deeper look at what the nervous system is doing. And so I think when we do those scans, depending on the age of the child, we're going to see either heart rate variability and that rolling thermography scan show areas of interference and show how the body is recovering and how the body is replenishing energy. It doesn't make sense necessarily without a visual, and maybe we can pop one of those HRV scans up on our social media in the future. But when the nervous system is struggling to adapt and regulate, now we're seeing that. I'm talking to you guys like you need to learn it. But when we're seeing that the nervous system is struggling to adapt and regulate, their ability to replenish that energy becomes a lot harder. And so we see kiddos that are 3 and 4 years old, they should be able to use energy and bring it right back in very quickly, almost to the point where us adults get a little bit jealous that they're so well rested or they have so much energy to give in the day. And we often say that we're very fatigued as adults, and so trying to look at those scans initially to see where their body is starting at a baseline, and then discussing with parents, hey, once we start to address the interference we see on that rolling thermography scan, we'll be able to see where the body cannot get those proper signals from the brain. Once we heal those areas, now we can start to see that the body's not stressed trying to work on those areas of dysfunction. It's actually healing and adapting. And so that rest is much more of a recovery mechanism and a restful mechanism rather than the brain telling the body, hey, we have to fix all these areas. That gets fixed with the adjustments.
Yeah, we talk about like creating adaptability in kids. Again, I've seen it with my own kids. If we get a little off with their adjusting rhythm, if their nervous system is under a little extra stress, we'll see it in the morning, and I am adjusting them immediately, because if we don't recover that and we don't get their nervous system back into an adaptable state, then everything else that happens the rest of the day is just going to chew them up that much more. When you're talking about HRV, the version of it that I tell patients is it's your body's fuel tank. And when we run that assessment on someone and we see that they're plotting below that ideal range, it means you're starting the day at a negative balance or a less than full fuel tank. It's like trying to drive 100 miles with only 25 miles worth of gas. There's going to be a problem and it's going to fail you.
Yeah. I think especially with the scans, it just allows us to kind of see where their nervous system is at. And typically we will see they're either very stressed out and very on that sympathetic side, or they're exhausted. And so they're on the parasympathetic side, but they're not able to get full rest and recover. It's more of an exhausted state from being so stressed out and so sympathetic for so long.
And it looks different at different ages. Obviously we care for people throughout their entire life. The common phrases that and we'll talk a little bit about like things you can look out for in your kids, things that may tell you that their nervous system's in that state. But with the adults, I'm telling you right now, it's the same thing we hear every single time is they are halfway through the day and they are ready for a nap. They are on coffee 2, 3, 4 because their body is telling it. That's the check engine light. That's the warning. That's the I need help. I need support. I'm not getting it from you. And it's because you're playing with a less than full fuel tank in the first place. And so let's go into that. Let's talk about like for parents, we're big in this. We want to give you action steps. We want to make sure that we're a resource for anyone watching or anyone listening. What are they looking out for? What should they see in their kids? Obviously, if they're not sleeping, that's one thing. But you said eating, sleeping, pooping. What are some other signs that tell us around that topic that even if they're sleeping well, bad sleep may be the next thing coming if you're not careful?
I mean, I think certainly at a young age, I had the blessing of doing a home visit with a mom that was in our practice who gave birth earlier this week. And so I adjusted baby at 10 hours old, and it was incredible. But we talked with mom about, hey, we're going to see that even with the beauty of the birth process, it's also very traumatic for mom and baby. And so I said the first things we have to look out for is if baby's not sleeping, eating, like struggling to latch or not getting enough nutrients, and then pooping if they're constipated. We're going to see that those struggles or challenges are not going to allow them to further develop and grow and create those or hit those milestones that they should be hitting. And so I think the biggest thing is that, yes, sleep, I think just naturally in the world that we live in, we just assume kids are going to be bad sleepers. I mean, there's so many conversations with mom before even having the baby. Bank on your sleep now because you're not going to get it later. It's like that shouldn't be the reality
It's
of
been
it, right?
normalized.
Yeah,
Bad
exactly.
sleep is now normal.
Exactly. And so I think that the commonality of it, like the frequency of that happening for several hundreds of parents, I'm sure, is making it seem like that's just the typical normal and that's what you should expect from your child in that developing stage. But in reality, that kid should be able to get good rest so that the brain is healing and the body is healing and adapting. And all of those milestones that they're expected to hit are hitting on target. And we say it in our office. If you're a patient, you've heard us say this dozens of times. We've got patients that ask us, like, what pillow should I be using? How should I be sleeping? What should I be doing? And so those are adults asking us these questions. And our answer every single time is, we don't care how you sleep. We just care that you are
As long as
sleeping.
you're
And so your body does the majority of its healing while you are resting. And if it's not getting good rest, you're not getting good healing. And so I would love to say that the adjustment alone is doing all the work to heal your body, but we need that recovery process to still take place. And so when it comes to kiddo, the same thing is true. We don't care how they have to sleep. We just care that they are sleeping. Now, we certainly don't want it to be having to stay on mom's chest for hours and hours on end. That's certainly not feasible for anyone. And that's going to lead to more stress down the road when mom can't get up from the chair, right? We need to make sure that their body is healing and adapting. In order to do so, it needs to be resting.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the thing that I always go back to is the sleep being so important, but the quality of it being just as important. And so why, when we talk about stress, we often hear from parents around this category of sleep, it's kind of a mind-blowing thing that we bring up, like, hey, their nervous system is stressed, but they're 2 days old, they're 2 weeks old, they're 2 months old. How do we see that stress show up, Dr. Anna, in a little one? Like, for parents, they're like, oh, this perfect little thing was just born, but you're telling me that this body is full of stress. How does it happen?
Yeah.
So, I mean, even it happens whenever baby's inside the womb in mom. And a big thing that we talk about is co-regulation. And so if mom's nervous system is stressed out or exhausted, or it can't be balanced because nervous system is not regulated, that her nervous system will feed the baby's nervous system, and it's growing that baby inside of you. And so comes from, pregnancy stress or just general stress that you're under during pregnancy and then leading up to that delivery date. I mean, there's a lot that goes on, whether it's like C-section or forceps or like being induced or
Construction,
like
yeah.
all of those things. Like that can create more stress on the baby. And then say you have to have a C-section, then they're physically pulling your baby out and it's not like the natural way to come out into the world. And then you see all these things with like immune responses and just things like that that can create more stress in the baby. And 2 days old, they're not sleeping. They're not able to eat. They're spitting up. They're not gaining weight. We see all these things.
Well, people in the best way possible always, like, the phrase has always been the same since even I was a kid. You'd hear it from parents and grandparents. Just give them time. They're going to grow out of it. And what we know now with all the research and all the information and the assessments and power that we have to do those is that kids do not grow out of these symptoms. They grow into additional challenges. So yes, if they're struggling to sleep, one day they might all of a sudden start sleeping. But I assure you, the stress is hiding somewhere else in the neurology.
Yeah.
And when they get older, it's a behavioral problem toddler. It's moving into an ADHD child. It moves into a very stressed out, exhausted, overwhelmed teenager, and eventually just a medicated adult who can't get through life and has to go through it like a zombie on all these drugs. So it has a snowball effect if we don't get a hold of that. And we always say early and often is the key to building a strong immune system and a strong nervous system.
I think part of the question too is how is that child going to present? So yes, if a mom has a very traumatic birth or delivery or stressful pregnancy, they are more likely to maybe look for what those challenges might look like in their child. But when we've got moms, like the mom, for example, that I just spoke about, she was under care her entire pregnancy. Baby was born in a home birth. It was a beautiful experience. There was hardly any complications at all, but yet baby's still struggling to latch. Like I got a message from mom saying baby's still having this issue. And so we addressed C1, C2. I'm just looking to make sure that those areas in the upper cervical portion were working as well as they should. But she also doesn't show any signs that she's not sleeping well or that she's not eating well or that she's not, eventually going to be going to the bathroom accordingly. And so when it comes to what signs should I look for in my child, a lot of times it is that reluctancy to taking a nap, or we've got some parents are like, oh, my kid has FOMO, like they don't want to miss out on what's happening. And although that's really funny, it's also the same side of it is that kid doesn't even know how to get in that restful state. And so if you're sitting there, I mean, as adults, we've probably had nights where we sit there staring at the ceiling because we don't know how to calm down or we don't know how to get our nervous system regulated to allow our bodies to sleep, or we're thinking about all the things we have to do for the next day. And although that child's not thinking about its to-do list tomorrow, it's still running through nervous system interference. And so now they can't get in that restful spot. And so we'll see behavioral challenge. We'll see those are certainly for those older kiddos once they get 2, 3, 4 years old and they're acting out and they're hurting others and they're hitting and they're not maybe responding as appropriately to different stressors, I suppose. We're going to see that creates challenges. But even for baby, we're going to see rigidity and tension and colic or just
Reflux.
not feeling a reflux.
Yep.
We're not going to see kids that are seeming like they're at ease. Again, babies having to develop at supersonic speed. Their brain is learning new connectivity milestones and markers and challenges and behaviors and things that we can't even see happening. And if they're not sleeping, that process isn't going on. And so we'll even see later on that they're 8, 9, 10 months old and they've missed milestones that they were supposed to have before. Again, typical medicine says like, oh, they'll catch up. It'll be fine. And in reality, if they were able to rest and develop accordingly, those probably wouldn't have been as maybe delayed at all if we got through the nervous system interference.
Yeah.
One of the big signs that I would encourage parents to look out for, because I've seen it a ton in my career, is for the moms that are breastfeeding. If your child feeds well on one side and is resistant or won't turn their head, or you have to hold them like a football instead of across you to be able to feed on the opposite side, that tells us right off the bat that there's stress in the nervous system.
Yeah.
There is something holding back the ability to turn that head. And you might go to the pediatrician. They might call it torticollis. They might give you a diagnosis. But the reality is if you remove the stress and you let the brain and body communicate with each other, we have seen countless cases of those kids feed well, sleep well, rest well, and it's because their body has a chance. We're going to get into the next episode, but Dr. Jamie, whether she realizes it or not, kind of hinted at it, because we're talking on the next episode about behavior. So things to be on the lookout for. If you have to be embarrassed to take your kid places, because they won't behave or they don't cooperate. And I'm telling you that because I have been there with my stressful kids as they get their nervous system tuned in. That's what we're talking about in this next one. So we're going to give you some things to look out for. Same thing, information, education, and helpful hints on how to make sure you don't have to be the embarrassed parent when you take your kid to school. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Bye.
Bye, guys.